new information for you.
Yep.
And what is your, I guess, opinion about that, and are any other current players under investigation in NCAA currently practicing?
Yeah, you know, it's like a lot of things. My answer would be we'll see, and we'll see. But right now, I know it's I know what I've read, just like you have. It's been kind of an interesting process. An outside law firm has handled it internally for us, as I think you know. So they've been gathering information. They've been working on that in cooperation with the athletes, and some of the athletes have attorneys for obvious reasons. So at some point, all that information, maybe it already has gone to the NCAA, and that'll be reviewed by them. I mentioned the DCI level. That's curious to me. Only in that, I've had a little time to think about it now. There's 49 states by my count that play football, have college universities that play football. I think it's interesting that if we're the only state I'm aware of, and I think it's interesting more than 2 colleges in our state. So it's kind of interesting how that all came about. Not excusing anybody that's involved. And then also, I assume they've, maybe had charges against non-athletes as well. I don't know that. Point there is I don't know a lot of things right now, and we'll deal with what we do know when it's presented to us. As a coach, I'm really more concerned probably about the NCAA rules and where they fit in there in terms of eligibility. But obviously, if their charges are pressed and somebody's convicted, then you deal with that when it comes. So it's kind of a wait and see thing, and we'll just let it unravel as we go.
Building on a couple of things. Given that only one state has been involved in this, and there have been several players incriminated, one should assume, I would guess, that it does spread to many other states, and the numbers are larger. And you mentioned the integrity of the game. Why should people believe in the integrity of the game when, clearly athletes are betting on games?
Well, I think the key point there is betting on our games, and that is, to me, it's a deal breaker if that is in fact proven to be true. So we'll deal with that when we get there. But I think as we move forward, I think at least in my opinion, it's been a learning process for me. It's probably time for new policies from the NCAA, and I think they already have addressed that. It's probably time to take another step. I think they came out with something early May, late April. I'm not sure that's aggressive enough based on the world we're living in. But everything's got to start there. That's not something you can. It's not a compromise. A negotiation. It starts there. So, and I would also suggest, based on the numbers I'm aware of, it's probably a pretty small number in terms of the big scheme of things, but it doesn't make it right. There's no way you can condone that.
Noah Shannon, put it out there himself a few weeks ago. What's his status?
He's in a holding pattern like the other players. So, to my knowledge, no crime hasn't been accused of any crimes, but he does have an NCAA issue to deal with, and we'll let it ride out and see what the NCAA has to say about it.
To clarify,
and I want to go back on that too, just to give you a little more. I know it's a really good example of this whole thing. It's given me a chance to step back a little bit and think about some things, and my wife's been involved in this. Noah's one of the best kids we have on our football team. He's a strong, respected leader, tremendous young person, and has been nothing from my standpoint a model football player for us. I'm really proud of everything he's done. And I'm proud of the fact that he did come forward and say, I'm not sure I want to go to Indianapolis. I don't think it's right now, fair to our football team. And that gives you a little indication to his character, I think. And as I step back and look at it, just consider this. If we went out and rounded up every kid on campus who had a beer before they were 21, and I'm not saying it's the exact parallel, but I would suggest, betting was a big thing in the 80s. I remember the FBI presenting that to us in team meetings. I would suggest it's probably a bigger thing right now, and all you have to do is look at your phones or watch TV and think you know what I'm talking about. So we're living in a whole different world. I think we have to ramp up our education. Me personally, probably have to do a better job there. And I would suggest there's probably going to be some modification in policies moving forward from the NCAA. I don't want to speak for them, but I would imagine that might be the case, just like the NFL. I think has a pretty realistic set of working rules, and I would like to see ours hopefully model theirs a little bit closer. That's just my 2 cents commentary.
Kirk, how much and how often do you emphasize to your players the gambling rules?
It's an annual thing. It's an annual thing. I think they know they're not supposed to do it. That hasn't changed. The world outside's changed, and again, I think I've told you before. you know, I don't gamble, so I really haven't paid attention. I have a, whether it's good or bad, I have a ability just to kind of block stuff out I don't care about. And that's been one thing I've paid attention since early May, and it's just amazing. I mean, it should not come as any surprise that, you know, this is true, that those stats that were in the survey, not just athletes, it's everybody. This is the world we live in. So, and I'm not saying we're ramming it down people's throats, but it's pretty easy to get there. It's pretty prevalent, and, you know, no kidding, we might have some guys involved. So, yeah, I think we have to rethink our educational process as well, make that a big thing.
To clarify, for the players who are in a holding pattern, what level of involvement do they currently have with the team? Are they practicing? Are they in team meetings?
Every case is a little bit individual, I'd say, I'd put it that way. With the exception of one, the guys are playing, or practicing, some are out because of injuries, et cetera. You know, the bigger picture I have to consider is the head coaches, they may not be here on opening day or whatever. And it might be one day, it might be, you know, 11, 12 games, I don't know. None of us know that, so you gotta keep that in mind too. You know, out of fairness to our football team, we have to do what's best for the team too. So it's kind of a flexible equation, if you will. It's a moving target, and that's where clarity will really help us. You know, right now, I don't know that anybody knows facts, other than we are dealing with the situation.
In the education that you give to the players on a regular basis, does that include guidance that they're not supposed to use like proxies, like family members, et cetera, to be placing?
Yeah, I mean, gambling's gambling, I think, you know, as far as I can understand it, like, no matter how you do it. And one of the ironies is, you know, from what I can understand, these guys might have been better off going through bookies, which I know is illegal. That's what people my age did, you know, 40 years ago. So that's the irony of this whole thing, I guess. But all that being said, the world has changed. Just like, you know, I would say it's not a direct parallel, but the drug usage or drug testing policies of the NCAA changed radically in the last 5 years, probably because most states have legalized marijuana. So, you know, it just kind of reflects the world we live in. I'm not saying I know what the happy medium is or where it should be, but it's pretty obvious, I think, that it's time for discussion about this. In the meantime, we'll deal with the facts and deal with the circumstances we have to deal with. We're not running from that at all. But I do think as we move forward right now, it's one thing you're gonna see changing. And my sense is the NCAA is very sensitive to that. I don't think they're, you know, oblivious to this thing. I think, you know, we got new leadership there. They seem to be a lot more in touch with what's going on, like today, currently, and that's a good thing.
Has this situation like changed the way that you're preparing leading up?
Not at all.
Well, I mean, in the sense that some guys may or may not be available. Or have you ever been in this type of situation leading up to a season?
No, and it's really not that big a deal right now, quite frankly. Again, I'm not trying to be coy, but it just isn't. Noah's injured. He would be the most prominent player, to my knowledge, that's involved in this. And, you know, so as we got closer to games, let's say he was 100% healthy, which he's not. If we got closer to games, that's something we'd have to weigh and measure, because if you don't know if a player's gonna be there, you gotta get other guys ready to go. Because we're gonna play regardless, you know, we're gonna play. So, you know, but right now, we'll wait and see, you know, that's just the way it goes, you know. So it hasn't really been a big deal, that might